Hey y'all, today we're going to continue my summer smoking series on my Weber Pellet Grill. I'm going to have a bunch of my buddies over, we're going to play a lot of music, and we're going to eat a lot of meat. We're having ourselves a good old-fashioned guitar barbecue. Oh, we're having a whole lot of fun.
No, it can't go wrong with a great country song. Good buddies and nice cold beer.
Hey y'all, welcome back to my kitchen because I am doing a summer smoking series. Taking a little break from the crock pot and vids. We're letting Aunt Lou take over that for a little while. Meanwhile, I still want to cook, but I want to do it outside on the Big Bak Porch with my new Weber pellet smoker. And today I'm having a bunch of friends over, a bunch of musician buddies of mine, some of the guys from my band, some of the guys from around the area that I played with, just a bunch of good dudes that we're going to sit down and eat some food, drink some beer, and pick a little guitar. Well, a lot of guitar today, but in order to do all that I want to do, I got to get started right now because I'm not doing one, I'm not doing two, I am doing 3 separate meats today on my Weber pellet smoker. I'm going to be doing some baby back ribs. I'm also going to be doing what's known as a picanha, or somebody calls it a culotte. Think about it like a top sirloin cap. It's beef. And also, the other thing I'm going to do is a bunch of chicken wings. I just want to make sure that my guys are fed while we're having a good time. And I am so new to this pellet smoker thing. I've been doing a lot of research, and I'm just going to say this right now. Y'all, I know how to use a crock pot. My wife has taught me well. I can use a crock pot, I can use a foodie, I can slow cook, I can pressure cook, I can do all that. But you've got to learn how to do it from the best. And so I've been watching a guy called Malcolm Reed, and I would love for you guys to go over to his channel called How to Barbecue Right. I don't know the man, but I've watched a lot of his videos, and I'm pretty sure we would get along well because he's another man who likes beer and meat. And so I've been watching him plus a few other channels. And I'm going to do the ribs first because they're going to take the longest. This is the toughest piece of meat that I want to make tender. I want to make it where it's still got a good chew to it, but not shoe leather. And so I've got 4 racks of back ribs. Now what I did first, and I did this on 3 of the 4, I'm going to show you what I did, is on the inside, not the meat side, but the other side, the bottom, if you want to call that, the inside of the rib cage. There is a membrane. Now these are stripped clean, but this one still has the membrane on it. And so all I did to get rid of that membrane was I just kind of dug in there, and I had an issue with a couple of them because sometimes that membrane gets a little bit hard to pull off of the bone. Once you get it started, it just goes. But I used some techniques from catfishing. And that is where you take a pair of pliers and you grab a hold of that skin or this membrane, as I'm doing, and then it just peels right off. Luckily I got this one with my finger, so this won't be too hard to do. But all I want to do first off is take that membrane off. It really doesn't serve a purpose for cooking. It makes for a chewy piece. And I don't mind a little bit of chew on my meat, but I don't want to be chewing up that connective tissue, and that's all this membrane is. It pretty much holds the ribs, helps to hold the ribs together. And I'm going to take that off, and just like that, it comes off really clean, and I'm left with 4 good looking slabs of ribs. Now I'm not doing competition barbecue or nothing like that, and these look like they've all been trimmed up pretty good. So Malcolm, if you by chance get to watch this and you're like, man, that boy is screwing that up, I'm sorry, I'm still learning. But that looks good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash my hands, and then we're going to get to seasoning these ribs. All right, hands are washed, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try 2 separate spices, or 2 separate rubs on my ribs. I'm going to smoke them, and then when we go to wrap it in foil, I'm going to try a couple different sauces here. One, I've got a Carolina mustard style, like a sweet mustard sauce. And then our favorite around here is Sweet Baby Ray's. I've got their hickory and brown sugar. So I'm going to try 2 ribs one way and 2 ribs another. We'll see how it goes. But the first part of it is the seasoning, and I'm going to do them all the same way. I've got some Famous Dave's rib rub. I really do enjoy Famous Dave's, so I'm just going to go on the bottom side, pretty light, just enough to get it on there, on all these ribs. Just like that. Got those 2, then we'll get these guys here. And what this is going to do is when it goes in the smoker, it's going to form They call it a bark, or you think of a crust, and it's going to give it some texture, and then you're going to have so many different flavors on that meat. Now, this Famous Dave's is not really spicy. It's got a lot of pepper in there, I can see. Sugar, salt, garlic powder, spices, onion powder, things like that, which is good enough for me. All right, now I'm gonna kind of pat that in. Now they call this a rub, but you don't rub the meat, you just pat it in. I'm gonna do that with my left hand, so I keep my right hand clean to handle all the bottles, what I was learning from the last time I was smoking. You don't have to use both hands. So flip these over to the meat side. Just like that. There's a lot of good meat on there. And again, I'm just kind of putting a light coat on there. I'm not going super heavy on this. Mainly because I'm afraid to, because I haven't used all these spices yet. And I know that the hickory pellets from my smoker are going to give this a lot of flavor too, plus the sauce, plus we're going to use some brown sugar and some butter. Another trick I learned from Mr. Malcolm Reed. And just like that, we've got our Famous Dave's on there. And now, I'm going to go with a second rub. Let me pat that in real quick before I forget. And that second rub, I might find it where it's at, is a spiced bourbon rub. Now this spiced bourbon rub, I tasted it a little bit last night. Found this at one of my local meat markets, and I don't know anything about this company, but I love the flavor that bourbon gives. I'm not much of a bourbon drinker. I like beer. But I love the flavor that bourbon gives. And this has got a little bit of heat to it, and it's definitely sweet, and you can taste that bourbon flavor in it. So I'm going to go over the top. It's also a little bit more coarse than the other. And I'm going to go over my ribs with that bourbon spice. Do it over here. And on this one. Again, I'm putting the same spices to do the initial smoke in this, all the same. And then we'll mix it up whenever we go to put the sauce on there. I missed it in there. And make sure you get your ends of your meat too. You don't want to miss any spice on there. So I'll flip them over and do the same thing to the inside of the rib cage. Again, I want to make sure I get it also on the I guess you call it the end cap, or the ends of the bones, where that flavor gets all in there. I'm glad I only got 4 racks of ribs because I'm about out of that spice. Oh yeah, on the inside. Over there, make sure we get the caps. All right, now the last thing I want to do is I want to let this, what they say, sweat. And all that's doing is it's going to draw the moisture out of the meat a little bit. A crust to form on the outside of this is going to help the spices to stick a little bit better. What I'm going to do is just turn these back over because I am going to cook them meat side up to begin with when I smoke them. So now I'm going to let these sweat for about 30 minutes. And while I'm letting these sweat, I'm going to go wash my hands and I'm going to go get the smoker fired up.
Hi, Obi. Hi, buddy. Hello, buddy. Hi. That's what you're eating today. I'm eating ribs. What do you think of that?
All right, so we're out here on the Big Bak Porch, getting everything set up for my boys to come out and play some music. And we got to feed them, so I'm going to kick on my Weber Pellet Grill. All I got to do is hit that button right there and set the temperature. Now I'm cooking 3 separate meats all at the same time. And so I'm going to go for 265 because I know that the ribs are going to take longer than the picanha. The picanha is not going to take as long as the wings. So I'm going to go ribs and then wings and then picanha. I'm going to do it all at the same temperature and just put them on at different times. That way the ribs can smoke for a couple hours, and then I'm gonna pull them off. I'm gonna wrap them in foil. I'm gonna cook them for about another 45 minutes or so. That's what I'm gonna put on my wings. They're gonna take probably about a total of an hour and 15 minutes to get up to temperature, as well as get that good smoke flavor. And the picanha takes about an hour. So I've got to time this just right to make sure all the meats get done at the same time, and they're all still good and tender and juicy and flavorful. And then my boys get fed because, well, you know, musicians, they want to eat, they want to drink beer, and they want it all right then. Musicians. All right, so I've got my Weber up to 265 degrees. Didn't take that long to do it. And then my ribs, I got them sitting for about almost 30 minutes with that spice on there. You got your bourbon spice, and then on top of that, or underneath that, you've got your famous Dave's rib rub, and they're looking really good. And I think this is gonna make for one heck of a good bark, as they call it. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go bone side down, meat side up on my smoker. Just like that. Grab my other one. I'm real excited to find out just how much meat that I can actually put on the smoker at one time. So put those up there like that. I guess if I wanted to, I could actually get about 6 racks of ribs on there, but I think 4 is enough for now. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna close that lid with my clean hand, and we're gonna let this go for 2 hours on the smoke. Now about every 30 to 45 minutes, I'm gonna spritz it with some juice just to keep the meat moist so it doesn't darken up too quick. And it's also got a little bit of sweetness to it because it's a peach mango or orange juice. I'll show you here in a little bit when it comes time to spritz, but for now, I gotta go wash my hands, and frankly, I need a shower. All right, so it's been about 50 minutes, and as you can see, I still haven't gone and taken a shower yet. I started cleaning on the house, you know. Mama's out of town, she wants a clean house, and so anyway, I got busy. I'll take a shower here in a little bit, but one thing I wanna do is I wanna check on my ribs. And that is what they look like after about 50 minutes. They're starting to get some color. I bet the bottom sides are really starting to get some color on them. And before I get that meat to dry out too much, I need to give it a spritz of some kind of a juice or cider, something just to keep that top part of the meat moist where it doesn't dry out. I'm not making jerky today. However, I just got off the phone with Cris and I asked her where my spritzer bottle was, and she said that she washed it, but she can't remember where she put it. I looked all over the house, I can't find it. So I've got to make do and adapt with something else. So what I'm going to do is this. Oh, by the way, I'm using mango pineapple simply smoothie, which is just mangoes and pineapples and orange juice. It's just going to keep it moist. It's going to give a little sweetness to it. And I don't have a spritzer, so what I'm going to do is this. Just like I would mop sauce on, I'm just going to lightly mop that meat. I don't want it heavy. I don't want to wash off all that bark that's getting cooked on there either, so I got to be not so liberal with it. But I just want to keep that meat nice and moist. And I believe this juice is going to do the trick. I got this mop at the store the other day, mainly because it just looked cool. If you were to put glasses on it, it would kind of look like Beaker from the Muppets. So that was 50 minutes. I'm going to come back and check it in about another 30 or so. I'm going to do another, spritz or mop on it. And then that should be in about another 40 minutes from there or so. It'll be time to wrap them up. Now, I promise you, I'm going to go take that shower. I smell funny. And not funny ha-ha either. Okay, as you can see, I'm showered and I smell good. You know what else smells good? Those ribs. They got about 20 more minutes before I'm going to pull them off and wrap them in foil. So in the meantime, I'm going to get my other meats ready. I have here about a 2.5 pound culotte, picanha, sirloin cap, whatever you want to call it. This is a Brazilian style cut, so this is what, like if you go to a Brazilian restaurant and you get a sirloin steak, they'll stick it on a spit and smoke it for hours. That's what I've got here. And all it is a great big piece of sirloin that comes off the pretty much the top back end of the cow, and it's got a fat cap. Now this fat cap is a little thin, but I don't think my butcher could do anything about it because it came pre-packaged. But I want to keep that fat cap on there because that's going to give a little bit of insulation, kind of like fat does, to the meat. And I saw Malcolm Reed do this, and again, I think you know by now I'm a huge fan of that guy. I think he looks like a nice guy. Of course, I've been told I look like a nice guy too, and I know you don't really know things until you get to know people, but I would hope you'd get to know me sometime, and I could prove to you that I'm a nice guy. And well, really, I'd like to sit down and have a beer with Malcolm Reed too and see if he is. But Malcolm, if you're watching this, just know I'm a fan. I'm going to score this both ways. Do like a cross cut, and that's going to let the spices go down into the fat and into the meat, and still let that fat protect that meat. And this, I'm just going to do a simple one rub on it, and I got this from Lowe's. It's a Texas SPG rub, which I'm guessing means salt, pepper, and garlic. I hope that's what it means. But that's all I want to do is just salt, pepper, and garlic. I'm not looking for a lot of elaborate flavors on this like I am with the chicken wings or the ribs. I want to taste meat with a little bit of good spices. So salt, pepper, and garlic. That's my 3 favorite spices, so this works out perfect. And I'm going to go pretty liberal, especially on the fat side, because all you're doing is seasoning the outside of this roast slash cut slash giant steak, however you want to call it. It's just a giant piece of meat. But I watched Malcolm Reed, again, we're going to talk about him a lot because he's been a big influence on me getting a smoker. He did his liberally, and the look on his face when he got done cooking that picanha just made me want to go out and eat one really quickly because it looked like it was a really good piece of meat. So we're going to try. And Malcolm, again, if I fail you, brother, I'm sorry. I'm learning. We're going to get all the sides of that meat seasoned really well. Just like that. Make sure. Yeah, we got it. We got her. Just like you would heavily season a roast, because that's season the outside and then the inside is just going to taste like beef. That's good. Now I'm just going to simply set this aside. I'm letting it come up a little bit closer to room temperature. I don't need that knife anymore. And I'm also, again, letting those seasonings kind of sweat into the meat. And now I've got about 15 minutes. Let me wash my hands. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with my wings, and then we're going to go get those ribs ready. All right, so what I did is I let these wings, they came whole pieces, and I cut them. You know the little tips of the wings? I clipped those off because there's no eating on them. And then I split them between the drummies and the wingettes, or whatever you call them, the flats and the drums. You know what I mean, the things that look like little drumsticks and the things that look like little flappers. I split them apart, and I put them in a Ziploc bag. And I don't know why, but I've got a big affinity for anything raspberry. And I grabbed a raspberry vinaigrette, dumped it over the wings in the bag, and let it sit overnight. This morning I thought about it, I'm like, I bet you that could use a little bit more flavor. So I used probably about a 1/4 cup, maybe about a 1/3 cup of Shire sauce. Shire sauce, you know, the one that's hard to say. And I put that in there as well, mixed it up, and I let that sit overnight and through the morning until this very moment. Now, I don't want the liquid anymore. I just want the wings. So what I'm going to do is get my hands messy again. And I'm wondering, I think there's 32 pieces here. I'm going to see if I can get all 32 on this rack. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try. Let's see how we do. Okay, so we got them all on the rack. Turns out there was 36. I am done with this liquid, so I'm going to close that up and throw it away. I'm going to wash my hands real quick and I'll show you what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to grab another Ziploc bag. Probably should have just, well, I wanted them to drip out because I don't need a lot of that liquid. I'm letting some of that excess liquid drip down into this pan. But I'm going to take about half of this batch of wings. This is something really cool I watched the feller do, And I just thought it was a good idea because when you're having wings, you want them crispy. I'm not going to deep fry them. I'm going to do everything in that smoker. I'm going to do everything at 265 degrees. So what I'm going to do is with my clean hand, I'm going to take some cornstarch and put over the top of my wings in this bag. I'm going to mix it up. If you hear that barking outside, that's my buddy Obi. I really didn't want him in here running around unsupervised. Now I got cornstarch all over me. And so he's outside begging me to come back out there and play with him, which I'll do that here in a little bit as soon as I get the rest of this meat on. I'm going to seal up the bag. And I just want to coat these wings and drums real good with this cornstarch. And what that's going to do is it's going to help that skin to be crispy on the outside. Cornstarch is something you can use to make things crispy and crunchy. I hope. We'll see. It worked for Mr. Reed. Hopefully it works for Mr. GOODe. Take them out. Now my hands are all messy. So it's almost like they've been dredged in flour. Like it's cornmeal. They're super sticky, so when I put the rest of the seasoning on there, they should hold that seasoning really well. Alright, so we got those, and I'm going to take the other half right back in the bag. I'm going to have to go change shirts again. Maybe I should have took my shower once the meat was done, but by that time my guys are going to be over here, so I couldn't do that. So, a little bit more cornstarch in there. I'm eyeballing it. I'm not doing any measurements on this. Seal up the bag. Make sure each piece gets coated. Cornstarch, and then back out of the bag we go. Alright, I'm going to wash my hands in that container real quick. I'll be right back. Alright, I've got the container washed, got my hands washed. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to season these, and I'm going to use, let me find it here, a Jack Daniel's chicken rub. And I think that's the only thing I'm putting on there. Yeah, just the Jack Daniel's chicken rub. And I haven't even tried this. I just know that Jack Daniel's flavoring, the whiskey flavorings, I've always enjoyed. Let's see what this smells like. Woo! Salty. Ooh, and it's got some heat to it. Not a super hot heat, but it's got some heat to it. So, I am going to put this on there to give it some heat. I'm not going to go too heavy. Just enough to give it really some, that's going to make for a really good color on these wings. And then hopefully that cornstarch will make them nice and crispy. And I'm going to cook these at 265 for about an hour and a half. I'm going to put them on there about the same time I go to finish those ribs. It's a white meat. You definitely want to go, on chicken, you want to go to 165. We like ours at 170 to 175. Chicken wings are pretty versatile though, so if you go a little higher, it's not going to hurt them. And I got about 7 minutes, so this is working out good. Now I'm just going to take and flip each one of these over so I can season the other side of them as my dog goes crazy. Alright, I've got my chicken wings flipped, and now I'm going to hit the other side with that same Jack Daniel's rub. I don't know how they're going to taste, but they sure are pretty. And that's all I want to do with the wings. That's as far as I want to go with them. I'm not going to sauce them or nothing. I just want them to be just like this. This is going to give them enough heat. And I think with that raspberry vinaigrette that I soaked it in, it's going to give it a whole lot of flavor, especially with that Worcestershire sauce. But now I'm going to set these aside, wash my hands again, and then we're going to go get those ribs. Oh yeah, and I'm going to clean off my counter space. Okay, so these ribs have been going for 2 hours. Let's see how we do. Oh yeah, check that out. Look at these ribs. See how they turned really, really red. They got a really good color to them. They got a really good bark. A lot of that fat has rendered out of the meat. That's what I want to see right there. That's some good looking meat going on right there. So now I'm going to take them and transfer them over to a cookie sheet so that we can get them wrapped. I bought a new spatula. Look at the size of that thing. This thing is the size of my head. All right, so grab these ribs. This is kind of hard to do with one hand. Transfer them over to this cookie sheet. I think I can get 2 on a sheet. Okay, you know what it looks like by putting ribs on a cookie sheet. I'm going to use both hands now. Oh yeah, real quick, I want to show you something. I don't know if you can, how well you can see that, but see how that meat's pulled away from the bone? That makes for some pretty ribs. I'm going to keep that smoker going, because while I'm going in there and wrapping these, I'm going to go ahead and put my picanha and my wings on the grill as well, so I can get them smoking while I'm wrapping this. Here we go. Okay, so now here's where I got to worry about real estate. I've got these wings. Good thing is there's 2 shelves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this top shelf and slide it towards me. And again, I'm going to need 2 hands. Give me a second. I'm going to take these wings and set them over to the right-hand side here. I'm going to slide that back just a hair. Now I'm going to take my picanha. Look how pretty it is! And I'm going to take this fat side down. And I'm going to set it here, right in the center. And get that to cooking. Now what I've done is my wings are over to the side. That way, when the wings drip down, they're not going to drip on top of that picanha, and I should have enough room left, fingers crossed, for my ribs. So we'll see. Now it's time to go dress the ribs. Come on. Okay, so my ribs are far from done for sure. They've got a great bark on the outside. But what I want to do now is I want to transfer them to foil, wrap them up. This is kind of like a braising. I'm going to put some liquid with them, as well as some brown sugar, as well as some butter. It's gonna be awesome. So I'm gonna take the ribs and I'm gonna go, almost forgot an important step. I need to take a bed of brown sugar and put it on the bottom. And I'm gonna use all this brown sugar for all of them. There we go, like that. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna get that glaze going for my ribs. Just a small bed of brown sugar on the bottom. I got to do this for each one. I grab some honey as soon as I find it. Oh, it's right here. Honey. So this is going to help make for a really, really, really sweet glaze on the bottom for that top part of the meat. Just like that. And then I'm going to go half and half. I'm going to do half Sweet Baby Ray's hickory and brown sugar. And again, you got brown sugar there, as well as the hickory smoke I've got going in there. I'm just going to do a bed of barbecue sauce. Give a little bit to the top here, just to make sure we get it all covered up. I'm going to roll that over onto that bed of brown sugar. And then on the top, I'm going to take about a half a stick of butter. Find a good knife. Here we go. Opie is not happy that I'm in here doing this right now. I'm going to take the butter, half a stick, and put that on top. That's also going to help the moisture. It's going to give it a layer of fat, keep everything nice and juicy. Spread that out a little bit. And then I'm going to wrap them up. We'll go. It's easy to do it when it's going the other way, when it's going this way, but it's hard to do with everything on this counter. So wrap it like that. Wrap it like that. And then wrap it like that. That's going to allow me to open this up and look inside if need be to make sure the ribs are good. And then I got to do this again 3 more times. But what I'm going to do on the other batch, same thing. I'm going to go with a bed of brown sugar. Make sure I save enough for the rest of them. I'm going to do my honey. Come on, honey. Get in there. For that glaze. And then on this one, I'm gonna do the Carolina sweet mustard sauce, and there's a cap on the inside. There it is. The good thing is it'll allow me to taste that. Ooh, that's good. A little sweet. It's vinegary. That's really good. So I'm gonna go pretty generous with that. That's fantastic, man. I thought that hickory brown sugar was gonna be good, but daggone. And I'm gonna lay that, again, meat side down, and that's the side that's gonna cook on the smoker. Put my butter on the top, just like so. I'm running out of time. Gotta get these babies on. I got friends coming over. I can't wait. I love my friends. I can't wait for you to meet them. Top. That. Simple crimp. That'll keep everything sealed up. Still allow me to get to it. So I'm going to do the same thing for the other racks, and then we're going to put them back on the smoker. Hopefully we got enough real estate. We got lots of ribs, y'all. See if we can get them on there. Again, we're going meat side down, inside, bone side up. Again, I'm learning, and y'all are probably thinking, you're cooking too much. I probably am. I'm going to put that right dead center, that picanha. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure and put a thermometer in that picanha. And I want to go through the thickest part of my picanha until it comes up to an internal temperature of 120 to 122 degrees. That's going to make it medium rare, and then we're going to let it rest for a little bit. But right now, there's nothing left to do except clean up and drink a beer. I think I'll sit right here and drink beer. All right, so it's been about an hour, and I need to flip my wings over. I went ahead and bumped up the heat to 175 because I got a lot of meat going on in here. I want to make sure everything gets cooked up, so I kind of kicked up the heat just a little bit. But I want to flip these wings over, toss a little bit more seasoning on them, and let them cook for probably about another 30 to 45 minutes because I know they're not done yet. And here in about 2 or 3 more degrees, my picanha is going to be done, which is good. That means I'm going to take it and I'm going to let it sit and rest for about a half an hour so those juices will calm down. And about the same time, these ribs should be done. We'll see. Okay, so I went and flipped on my wings and I put a little bit more seasoning on the top side. We're going to continue to let them go probably for another 30 to 45 minutes. And I've got an alert on my phone that tells me that my picanha is cooked. But what I want to do is I'm going to pull it out, and I'm also going to probe it one more time in a different spot just to make sure that it's actually hit that temperature. Guess what? That probe's hot. Let's see what it says. No, it's saying it's done. Hang on, let's look one more time right in here. Nope, it's holding at 122, so that picanha is done. So I'm going to take it out and I'm going to let it rest. Now if you look at it, it's kind of hard to tell from here, but it's really plump, and that's because all those juices, all that moisture in there, you know, when moisture gets hot, it expands and expanded. So I'm going to let that rest just like that, and then we'll cut into that first. For now, I'm going to take my wings and I'm going to slide them, now that the picanha's out of the way, I'm going to slide them over towards the center of this rack. I need to get one of those Malcolm Reed baskets because this is a bad idea whenever you're not wearing gloves. Luckily my gloves came in the mail, so let's try that again. Take these wings, I'm going to set them right directly over where that heat source is, and that should help them to cook up pretty good. Move my ribs over towards the sides. And they'll continue to cook at 275, probably for about another half hour. I'll check those ribs here in just a little bit. For now, I gotta go get the music hooked up. Okay, so the boys are over, and the meat's just about done. The picanha is done. It's been resting for about 30, maybe 35 minutes, so I'm getting ready to cut into that. My ribs, let me bring you to the ribs. I don't know, can you see that? Yeah, there you go. The way to tell the ribs are getting done is if you could take the bone and pull it out of the meat. It's starting to come out, which is a really good sign. See that? That's good. So now what I got to do is I'm going to take these out. I'm going to put them back on the smoker, meat side up, with the sauce on top of them. That way we can get a good glaze on top. I've also got some corn that's smoking, and I've got some garlic butter that is smoking as well so that they can dip their corn in it. And my wings are just about done. So we're just about ready to eat. Here we go. Okay, so before we flip these over and put them back on the grill, I want you to see how that bone separations come up. You see the bone starting to pop out on the sides. Yeah, that's a really good one right there. And then this one right here, man, that is absolutely gorgeous. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put them back on the smoker, meat side up, and I'm gonna baste them with the sauces that I was using so that we get that really good glaze. And here in about 15-20 minutes, we're gonna start eating. Here we go. All right, so my ribs were done. Flipped them over, put some sauce on them. I'm gonna let them go for about 15-20 minutes. I've got a little fire going on, so I need to take care of that, and I need to pull my wings off because they just got done. Look at that. Look how gorgeous that is. Okay, so the wings are done. Corn can be done anytime. I'm gonna put that in a basket here in a minute. The ribs are just about done. Be done here in about 10, maybe 15 minutes, and then we're gonna eat. But right now, I got a bunch of hungry guys over there, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut into that picanha so that we got something to chew on while the ribs are getting done. All right, so we're gonna cut this off and see how we did. Oh, it looks real pretty. We're going to give that a taste. Definitely medium rare, rare medium rare, which is where I want it. Oh my God. You guys got to try this. All right, next step is to see how we did with the wings. Bo's already asked me, what'd you put on that? And again, that was a raspberry vinaigrette. It was soaked overnight. I put some Shire sauce with it just to give it a little more sweetness and a little more vinegar flavor. I coated it in cornstarch and put that wing rub on there. Oh my God. Oh my God. You definitely taste the raspberry. That cornstarch did give it a crunch.
Wings?
And then that wing rub gave it just enough heat to give it good flavor
What do you think?
without being too overpowering.
Yeah, thumbs up.
What do you think? Good? Yeah.
I love it.
Really?
I'm gonna judge in a second.
That-
Starch is like a nice medium texture.
That starch gives it just a little bit of a crunch like if you were to deep fry them, but not.
Yeah.
It keeps the skin from being rubbery. And then there's just a hint of that flavor of that Worcestershire sauce.
You don't see it.
That's really good.
Boy, is it.
Last step is to check out the ribs and see how the ribs do. We got about 5 minutes on those. All right, it's been about 20-25 minutes. It's time for me to check out these ribs while the guys are having a good time. Let's check them out. So here is your brown sugar and hickory. Then over here is your mustard. You can see it bubbling on top. It's starting to get a good glaze on it. We're gonna pull them off and cut them apart and see how we do. So I'm gonna start off with the brown sugar and hickory. And look at that, they just fall apart. Holy mackerel. Just like Malcolm Reed said, look at that, they just fall apart. In fact, I could just break those off without even cutting them, but the way to tell is when you pull that bone out, look how clean that is. Except there's just a little bit of meat right there for me. They're perfect. They're fall off the bone tender, but they're not mushy. Absolutely perfect. Now I'm gonna try the honey, or the Carolina mustard. See how they just break apart like that, right at the bone? That is fantastic. I gotta get a piece of that. Just a little nip. Ooh, it's hot. Oh yeah. I'm gonna cut these up. I'm gonna cut these up and serve them to the guys. Good?
Oh, yeah. Wow.
All right.
That's understatement, Mike. You got to get a close-up shot of the sun hitting glistening tops of these things.
I think everybody's happy.
Amazing.
I know I am. We just did a picanha, we did ribs, and we did wings, all in the pellet smoker. Everything worked out. I'm gonna get the corn off the smoker, and we're gonna go pick some tunes. Stick around. Hang on. So we've had a good night tonight. A couple of guys had to go home, but we got a couple of guys left here. Over here we got my best friend, Jeremy Woods. He's also my producer. If you listen to that last album that I did, Redneck Rockstar, this is the guy that made the magic happen. This is my best friend George right here. If you listen to Any Less My Brother, he's singing the high harmonies on that. He's one of my really, really good friends. Over here is another one of my really good friends. His name is Trace Thompson. He is an award-winning songwriter and singer, and he's just a dang good dude, and I'm honored to have him on my Big Bak Porch. But I promised y'all a song, so we're gonna do a song, and I figure while we're on this Big Bak Porch, and I got my good buddies and a whole bunch of ice cold beer, we're gonna do a song called Good Buddies and Ice Cold Beer. Kind of goes a little something like this. 1, 2, 3. It's 7:30 on a Friday night, and I'm heading into my weekend. I got a full cooler of cold Bud Light, gonna meet up with a few of my friends. We're gonna hang out on a Big Bak Porch, watching bugs get zapped by the light. The radio's cranking out old King George, yeah, it's gonna be a damn good night. 'Cause we're the kings of the world. We're hanging out back here. 'Cause you can't go wrong with a great country song, good buddies and ice cold beer. Jerry just found out that he lost his job, and George has got a new ex-wife. And Trace just found out that his pension got robbed, that he'd worked for all his life. Sorry, Trace. And I got my share of problems too, but nobody else needs to know. I'd rather sit right here and crack a few and crank up that old radio. 'Cause we're the kings of the world. We're hanging out back here. Can't go wrong with a great country song, good buddies and ice cold beer. Nobody knows what tomorrow holds, so we're living it up tonight. King George still playing on that radio, and the bugs getting zapped by the light. 'Cause we're the kings of the world. We're hanging out back here. 'Cause you can't go wrong with a great country song, good buddies and ice cold beer. No, we're the kings of the world. We're hanging out back here. No, you can't go wrong with a great country song, good buddies and ice cold beer. No, we can't go wrong with a great country song, good buddies and ice cold beer. There you go, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking with us with this summer series of smoking meats on my Weber Pellet Smoker. I want to thank my boys here that have come out to hang with me on the Big Bak Porch. And whatever you do, y'all, make sure that you laugh often, eat good food, and speak life. See y'all. Bye. If you want to see the latest, click on the left right here. If you feel like subscribing, click on the right, my dear. And if you think we're funny enough to send us money, click the Patreon link below.